Hi, it's Lauren. Welcome back to my craft room. Thanks for joining me for a Whimsy Stamps video. Today I'm sharing how I created this fun beachy scene using the Whimsy stamp set called Calm Christmas. I absolutely love how fun this relaxing Santa and sand snowmen are. I use my VersaFine Clair in Pinecone ink to stamp out all of my images, as well as my clear detail embossing powder. I made sure I didn't have any excess powder, and then bringing out my Zig Clean color markers. Now I'm speeding this up because I'm just going to do some very basic coloring. I'm starting off with different shades of red. I'm going to start with the darkest and color in his shorts, his hat, and the little heel part of the sock that's hanging behind him. There are other parts of red in my images, but I'm going to follow this same coloring combo and technique for all of the different red parts of my card. And then I'm going to bring in a little bit of a darker red just to add in more shadow. Next, I want to color in the white parts. So I am coloring in some areas of the sock, his shorts, and the little poofy parts of his hat. And then I will also be bringing in a colorless blender just to blend out anything that needs better blending between two shades of a color, or also for that white on the sock just to kind of smooth out the gray color. Then I brought in my greens to finish coloring in the sock, and now I'm going to color in my Santa. I have a beige tone and I'm coloring him in, and then bringing in oatmeal just to darken up where there should be shadow on our Santa. I'm bringing that gray back out to color in his hair and beard, and like I said before, that colorless blender just to really help spread the color out. His chair is also going to be brown, and then the part that he's sitting in, I'm going to bring back that green color and color in the rest of the chair. The coconut is going to be a darker brown, really trying to go for that coconut drink look because he is relaxing on the beach. The little umbrella was green and the straw was red, and I also colored in the sock with the same color combinations as the sock that was hanging from the back of the chair. I'm bringing out some sandy tones to color in my sand snowman, as well as some dark browns for his arms, buttons, and sunglasses in a dark gray. I'm going to color in my pine tree and those coconuts the same way that I colored in my coconut drink, and then bring out the green for the leaves. I decided to color the little shell on the ground and the flower with yellow, and then the outside of the flower with pink to give it a plumeria type look. And then of course orange for our little carrot nose, and then red again for the scarf. I also colored in the word warm with my reds and wishes with greens, so that way I could bring that color combination into my sentiment. I'm going to fussy cut them all out, and now we can start working on our background. I'm bringing out my glass mat because I'm going to do some ink blending on a Slimline card, and I need lots of space to do some coloring. I'm using the die set called Slimline Cornered Rectangles, so that way I could create a fun border for my card. I'm also using the Slimline Wavy Edger die set to help me create a frame that will be the frame around the shaker part of my card. So this is my background, but my frame is just going to be on the bottom half of the card. So I cut out another piece of paper, and I'm going to use the largest two of the Slimline dies to create the bottom U shape of my frame. I'm using some low tack tape to hold those in place, and of the extra part I'm going to be cutting out a wavy top for my frame. So I cut out the wavy die on that extra piece of paper from cutting out my lower part of the frame 2 times to create this simple wave. I'm going to be distressing these 2 pieces with my T-dye Distress Oxide ink pad, so that way I can create a beachy look. So you can see the bottom of my frame will go along the edge of my background. Well, I'm going to be coloring in both of the tea dye as well as a blue. So I need to figure out exactly where I need to stop coloring in brown. So I'm placing my frame where it would go onto my card base, and then I'm going to take the excess of my die cut and use it as a mask in order to know where to stop coloring in the brown and where the blue will start on my background. Trying to create kind of a beach scene with a blue sky behind it. So now that is in place, I'm using some low tack tape to hold that mask down, and I can bring back out that T-dye Distress Oxide ink and go ahead and color in the bottom half of my background. So again, using a large brush and that ink, I'm going to completely distress the bottom half of the card, And before I move the mask, I thought it'd be fun to add some splatter. So I'm going to be bringing out some brown ink to splatter onto the bottom portion of my card. And I will also splatter the frame pieces. So the U shape as well as that wavy shape. Also doing my best to not get any of that brown splatter on the top part of my card, as I will need to distress that with blue. Once that is all dry, I'm going to clean up my workspace and move on to the blue. So I moved my mask to the other side to cover the tea dye brown ink, and now I'm coming in with a blue shade, Salty Ocean, and I distressed the top part of my background to create my sky. I'm bringing in some white ink just to splatter in my background to create some kind of bubbly looking colors in my sky and sand, and then using a paper towel to wipe up any excess ink and water. While that background piece is drying, I'm going to move on to getting ready to assemble my shaker by creating the acetate front frame part of my shaker card. I'm going to add some double-sided adhesive from a 1/8 of an inch roll to the back of my frame. So I'm starting with the U shape. I'm going to pull up all of the release paper, and then I have this large piece of acetate, and I'm going to adhere that piece to a corner of my acetate so that way I don't have to trim off too much. So I'm lining up the left part of my frame and the bottom part of my frame and adhering that down. I'm going to repeat the same process with the wavy part. So again, using that 1/8 of an inch double-sided adhesive, apply it to the back of my wavy piece of my frame. And once that's completely covered, I will peel off the release paper and I will adhere it to the acetate as well, lining it up inside of that U shape already attached to my acetate. Once everything is nice and adhered, I'm going to grab my scissors and we're just going to trim around our glued down frame so our acetate is hidden behind our sandy frame. So just cutting at a little bit of an angle to make sure that my acetate is completely covered by the paper, and also going around those little wavy parts, making sure I have all of my acetate hidden. Once I'm happy with my frame, I can start getting my shaker ready to be put together. So my background is all dry and I made sure that my frame does cover where my blue and brown meet on my background. I have this 1/8 of an inch foam strips that I'm going to use to pop up the front part of my shaker. So I'm going around all four sides and putting on that foam tape. Once I'm done, I'm going to bring out my sand sprinkles that were released with the Hourglass die set, and I'm going to use just a little tool in my stash here to shovel on some sand onto my background. So just putting a little bit onto where it will be in the sandy window of my shaker, flattening it out and just making sure I have enough that I'll be happy with once I close up my shaker. I'm going to peel off all of the release paper behind my foam strips and then line up my window onto my background, making sure all of the edges meet, and I make sure everything is pressed down and secure and there's no area for my sand to escape, and I give it a good shake and I'm absolutely loving it so far. Now I'm going to take all of my cutout images and arrange them onto my background. Once I'm happy with how everything looks, I'm going to glue them down. Anything attached to the sand part of my card is getting glued down with wet glue, and anything that touches the sky part of my card has been adhered with some foam dots. Now that all of my images and my sentiment is attached, I can glue this to a card base. My card base is cut from an 8.5 by 7 piece of paper and scored at 3.5 to be 8.5 by 3.5 inches. And I have trimmed off each of those little white corners that you see because our awesome Slimline die set creates these nice corners. So in order for my card base to match, I'm just going around and trimming off all 4 corners. Here is a final look at my card. I absolutely love this fun sand shaker and our relaxing Santa with our sandy snowman, or sandman? Sandy snowman. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget you can use the links down below to purchase any of the products used to create this card. If you like this tutorial, please hit that like button, and if you're new, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. Thanks so much for watching and have a wonderful day.